We do have some very good questions, and there's actually many of them. So let's get right to it. As an ExxonMobil employee, I am in a PIP currently, and the question is, does it make sense to wait the 4 months or consider leaving before the rates go up?
That's a great question. I actually have a client that is in the same circumstance, and this is going to be on a case-by-case basis. Everybody's performance improvement plan is different, right? How the hurdles that you have to go through might be more challenging for you compared to others. You might not be able to afford to retire and may need to do everything you can to stay on payroll, which would be, I would say, an instance where you'd want to, unfortunately, suffer the losses on your pension to try to maintain your job. But there's a lot of people, if you were close to retirement anyway, you definitely need to consider and evaluate the value of what is being lost in your lump sum compared to what might be being lost in your salary by not continuing to stay at the company. And it could be more beneficial to leave the company now and just go get another job, even if you take some time off. But again, this is a case-by-case basis, so I'd strongly encourage that person call in and talk to one of us so we could talk through all of the different moving parts and issues with that.
Okay, next question is a good one. As an ExxonMobil grandfathered employee, how will that affect my lump sum in regards to the interest rate? And a follow-up question is, are they going up? And I might add, Tyson, if we could spend, maybe you could spend just a second on what it means to be a grandfathered employee at ExxonMobil and help them understand that as well.
Sure. Yeah, so that person seems to know that they are grandfathered. Basically, you have to be 65 years old and also have at least 25 years of service by the end of this year, 2022. What that entitles you to is a lower interest rate, which is based on the 30-year treasury, rather than the 3 corporate bond interest rates, which are all higher than the 30-year treasury. So it produces higher lump sum payouts if you're grandfathered. That's what they used to calculate pensions as, and the Pension Protection Act changed that for all companies. However, ExxonMobil decided to grandfather some employees in at that rate, and those folks are almost all gone at this point. But question was, are the interest rates going up? Yes, they're going up 0.75%, 75 basis points, or 0.75%, which is probably somewhere between, I would say, 6 to 8% drop in your lump sum if you don't leave by the end of the third quarter. I actually walked through the pension model or the EDA website with one of my clients on Monday this week. And even though the rates were updated on the IRS website on Saturday, the rates had still not been updated on the pension modeler on Monday. And I'm not positive that they are, today is Wednesday, yet updated. The way that you know is by running a comparison on the third quarter retirement. So let's say a September 1st commencement date compared to, let's say, a November 1st commencement date. So third quarter versus fourth quarter. If you do not see a substantial decrease in your lump sum, and they haven't updated the rates yet, but the good news is you can actually go to the advanced options and make an assumption that interest rates go up 1%, which is fairly close to what's happening. And until they update the rates, that'll be one way to see what that does to your pension from a dollar perspective. And hopefully it can help you make this decision. Does it make sense to leave by August 31st if you're not grandfathered? Or in this individual's case, by September 30th, the true end of the third quarter, in an effort to save some money on your lump sum and lock in what might be the most favorable interest rate environment for the rest of your career, potentially.
Next question. When is the last day to leave ExxonMobil and still take advantage of the quarterly current rates for interest purposes?
Yeah, they must have asked that question right before that one. It's basically, it's August 31st if you're not grandfathered, with a September 1st benefit commencement date. If you are grandfathered, you can leave as late as September 30th with a October 1st commencement date, and they will still honor the third quarter interest rate. So I guess it depends on what type of employee you are, but I would say probably close to 99% of employees, it's August 31st, which is barely more than a month away.
Yeah. Another question, as an ExxonMobil employee, do I have to take my lump sum pension right after retirement? And if I wait to commence my pension, will I then be forced to use the next quarter's rates, or can I defer?
Another great question. If you are over 65, they don't let you defer your pension benefit, because that's what they call the normal retirement age. So for all of you that are under 65, though, there's no reason you can't wait to take your pension. In this environment we're in, it in almost all cases would not make sense, because not only do you not have the ability to invest that money, but every time interest rates go up, that lump sum value is going to go down. But as long as you're under age 65, you can defer your pension benefit. And we've, in either falling interest rate environments or relatively flat interest rate environments where somebody is not yet age 60, that could be a good, a good argument to make to wait to take your pension to age out of the penalties. But in a rising interest rate environment, if you're taking any part of your pension as a lump sum, pretty difficult to make that argument to defer your pension.
Okay, here's a good question that we've been getting recently, Tyson. What is the probability of ExxonMobil canceling the lump sum option and then only providing the annuity as my payout terms? Can they do that?
Oh, man, that's a good question. They can do that. I'm not going to make a guess at what the probability of that happening is. Currently, the funding levels are pretty solid for ExxonMobil's pension. But based on the Pension Protection Act, once a company has funding levels below 80%, they start to lose control of what options they can allow employees to take. So they could force a partial lump sum, maybe remove the lump sum entirely. So it's absolutely possible, but I'm not going to guess at what the probability of that happening is. I would say probably not that likely anytime very soon, but who knows, several years down the road.
Sure. Okay, I'm aware of the rates, but I do not want to retire from ExxonMobil until 2024 when my kids get out of college, and I will also be 62 at the time. I am staying because no one will pay me what I make at ExxonMobil from a salaries perspective. Are you suggesting it may make sense to leave this quarter and get a different job, which may expose me to a lower paying job if I do so?
It's funny that somebody asked that question. This may actually be one of my clients that we're working through this. I have a gentleman who's working overseas right now, and he really didn't have any idea how these interest rates affected the lump sum, nor that he was losing money until we spoke about, I think, 3 months ago for the first time. He actually has a daughter that's in school, and his plan was exactly the same: work until she's out. The expenses drop down a little bit, hopefully, at that time, and now I can retire for good. We ran a plan and found out that he can actually retire for good now. Given his current expenses, he has more than enough money to retire, barring any unforeseen, unexpected one-time expenses that come up later in retirement. In his case, he's not ready to be done working, so he's going to get at least a part-time job just to stay stimulated over maybe the next couple of years. But when we ran the plan, based on, I think he was losing somewhere around $130,000 at the turn of the quarter, and that was just too much for him to stomach. So he, it seems, is going to put in his smart form maybe by next week, request his package, get out of there by August 31st. And even though he's going to have slightly higher expenses over the next 2 years compared to the rest of retirement because his daughter's still working, in his case, it made more sense. Not for everybody, but I would say there'd be a great opportunity to run a cash flow analysis and see if it might be better for you to leave earlier and still have more money in your retirement plan, even though your child might still not be out of college quite yet.
Yeah, great point. And I know we just talked about this a few questions ago, but maybe to clarify, because it sounds like this person may be confused, but I am confused. That's the first part of the question. And they're asking, are you saying that if I go to the ExxonMobil Benefits Center and enter in today's rates, my lump sum will be 8 to 10% lower next quarter? Can I put in a manual increase to see this rate on a different date?
Yeah, so let's clarify this. Once the ExxonMobil pension calculator has been updated, which it may be updated as of right now, I haven't checked it since Monday. The fourth quarter interest rates will be official, and the payout will be very close to accurate. And you should see a drop that's probably not far off from the 8 to 10% that person mentioned. In future quarters, they will also use the fourth quarter. So if you looked at the first quarter of next year or 5 years down the road, all they know is that what the fourth quarter rates are going to. So those are the interest rates they'll use for the fourth quarter of this year, as well as any quarter beyond that. When they have not yet updated the numbers, when those rates aren't official, or if they just haven't updated them yet, you have the ability to increase or decrease the interest rate assumptions by 1 or 2%. And this is very helpful, especially for retirements that are several years down the road, to stress test your plan and see, what if rates do go up 2% and I'm losing money in my pension lump sum every quarter until I retire. You can really see what is at stake. And of course, we don't know what rates are going to happen. We could go into a deep recession and the Federal Reserve might realize that improving the economy is more important than curbing inflation, which is right now their priority or their number one objective. And one of the reasons rates have increased so quickly this year. So we just can't predict what rates are going to happen in the future, but we do know that rates are historically very, very low still, even with the recent increases that have happened this year. And to answer your question, yes, you can manipulate or modify the interest rate assumption for quarters in the future that we don't quite know yet what they're going to be, just to see what you stand to lose. And I would encourage people that aren't able to or planning to retire for several years to stress test your plan. Use at least 1% increase in rates, if not a 2% increase in rate assumption, to see and plan conservatively, see what you need to do, maybe by saving more in your 401k now to offset that, maybe planning to work longer, whether or not at ExxonMobil, or maybe you need to cut down the budget now and prepare for having potentially less monthly income in retirement as a result of having less money in your pension lump sum.
Yeah, and maybe to piggyback off of that, just as an example, I ran a cash flow analysis for a person who's considering leaving just this past week. And we used, with respect to today's current suppressed rates and their values of their 401k, which obviously if they're in stocks, they're going to be down. We used a 10% lesser number from that to further assume a pessimistic outlook on the purpose of doing this stress test and what we talk about planning for the future and going through the cash flow analysis. This is the whole reason, or one of many reasons actually, to do this. And if you're looking to try to see what the most pessimistic outlook could be, an assumption might be that you have actually an additional 10% reduction of assets over and above what you currently have if you have a foreseeable retirement 3, 4, 5 years out or something. So that's something to consider as well. Last question, Tyson, and I'm surprised we didn't get more of these. Typically, every time we talk about the pension at ExxonMobil, we always have one of these questions, and here it is, which is they're confused about the Social Security offset. And if you could maybe elaborate on how the Social Security offset works for them and how that applies to their pension plan.
Okay, sure. It's fairly complicated because Social Security benefits are based on your highest 35 years worked. You have to have at least 40 quarters, which is 10 years of paying into Social Security to get any benefit. If you didn't work a full 35 years, there's going to be some zeros in your calculation. But the Social Security Administration keeps actual data of how much you earned and therefore what your benefit is going to be at different ages, age 62, full retirement age, which is anywhere between 66 and 67, or age 70, which is the latest you would ever want to take Social Security because they stop crediting it after that age. ExxonMobil, on the other hand, when they are figuring out a portion of your pension formula, which is the Social Security offset, the way it's calculated, by the way, it's only going to be up to half of your projected Social Security benefit if you have 33 and a third years of service. If you have less service than that, it's going to be an even lower offset. But let's just say you have the maximum offset, which is half of your benefit. And let's say that your Social Security benefit is projected to be $2,000 a month at age 62, which would make your Social Security offset, as far as your pension formula goes, be $1,000. That's the maximum offset, half of your projected benefit. Well, what if your actual Social Security benefit was only projected to be $1,800? So ExxonMobil overestimated by $200 a month, which means they're overestimating your offset by $100 a month. That means that they're underestimating your annuity payout by $100 a month. So you may have a $4,000 a month annuity where they're now only going to give you $3,900 a month because they got the Social Security estimate wrong. That also translates into your lump sum, and it's probably going to be 200 times that. So maybe $20,000, give or take, less lump sum that you'd be getting as a result of the company getting your projection wrong. Typically, we see this as a result of not working your entire career at ExxonMobil, or maybe leaving and coming back, maybe having the highest earnings of your career toward the end of your career. There's a whole host of reasons they could get this wrong, but it's because they're not uploading the information directly from the Social Security website. They're using an extrapolation backwards in time to utilize this. So what you got to do is take the number for the Social Security offset on your pension benefit projection, compare that to your projected age 62 benefit, and you have to make sure that you use zeros for your earnings from now until 62 if you're not yet 62. So it's a little more complicated to do. That's why we recommend working with a specialist on this evaluation. And if you work past 62, this is another reason some people see their lump sum flattening out or even going down past age 62, is because they will use your projected Social Security benefit for whatever age you're retiring if it's past 62. So if you're 66 years old, they're going to use your age 66 projected Social Security benefit for your Social Security offset, which is of course a higher number because you've deferred your Social Security for 4 years. Another reason that you might not be benefiting yourself from a pension perspective to continue working at the company past 62 in this particular scenario. So a lot of moving parts here, but just spend a few minutes with us. We'll guide you in the right direction, help you understand if this is even something you need to spend time worrying about. And then if it is, we can usually do an estimate of how much you'll save or get in addition to what they would otherwise give you in your pension by turning in your statement, and give you a recommendation on whether or not you should do that.
Yeah, thanks, Tyson. Well, folks, that's it for today. Thank you very much for spending some time with us. We certainly hope that you found some value in what we had to talk about today, and we encourage you to check out some of the other webinars that we've recorded in the past about a different myriad of topics that may be of interest to you. And so until next time, we'll see you. Everyone stay safe.
Thank you, folks.